The night bled across the open prairie like spilled ink, swallowing the moonlight and silence alike. The wind carried the scent of gunpowder, horse sweat, and iron, the smell of a man running from death itself. Through the darkness, a rider staggered in the saddle, one hand gripping the reins, the other pressed to his back where an arrow jutted cruelly from his flesh. Blood soaked his coat, each breath a shallow gasp of fire. His horse stumbled on the rocks, exhausted but pushed on because its master whispered words it could barely hear. Somewhere ahead, a faint glow flickered, a lantern in a cabin, a beacon of fragile mercy in a world long starved of it. He reached for it, then fell, crashing to the ground in a heap of mud, blood, and fading life. Inside that cabin, the crackle of a fire filled the small room, and the smell of wood smoke mixed with herbs. The woman who lived there, solitary, silent, and scarred by a life too harsh to name, was roused by the sound of a horse's scream. She moved to the door, her heart steady but guarded. When she opened it, she found a man broken by violence lying in the dirt, his hand twitching toward the badge still pinned weakly to his chest. She didn't need words. She could see who he was, a lawman, a marshal, and worse, she could see who had done this to him. That arrow was unmistakable. Blackthorn steel. The bounty hunters who used those never missed their mark. If they were on his trail, death was already riding fast toward this place. Still, something in her, something she thought long buried, refused to let him die there. She dragged him inside, muscles trembling with effort. His blood marked the floorboards as she laid him near the fire. She snapped the arrow's shaft, pulling it clean through his back while he let out a broken groan that barely sounded human. She worked quickly, not gently, washing the wound with whiskey and stitching him shut with shaking hands. His badge clinked against the floor, flashing in the firelight like a dying star. She turned it over and saw the engraving, U.S. Marshal, Samuel Graves. She frowned. She had heard the name before. Whispers of a lawman who hunted monsters but carried his own ghosts wherever he went. He woke near midnight, his eyes glassy but sharp enough to find hers. "Don't. Tell them I'm here," he rasped, blood crusting his lips. "They'll kill us both." His voice was hoarse, weighted with years of chasing justice that never came. He tried to rise, but pain threw him back down. She pressed a hand to his shoulder, forcing him still. "Rest," she said quietly. "You'll need it before dawn." He wanted to protest, to warn her, but exhaustion took him, and when his breathing finally steadied, she found the crumpled paper in his coat pocket. A wanted poster. The name printed in bold letters was Ezekiel Crow. A face shadowed beneath a wide hat, reward $10,000. Crow was a legend among killers, a ghost in the wilderness. If the marshal had been tracking him, no wonder the Blackthorn gang had come hunting. She looked toward the window, the horizon still dark, but a faint light threatening to rise. The bounty hunters would come with the sun. She could feel it. She spent the rest of the night preparing. The door was bolted. The rifle was loaded. The horse was hidden in the back shed. She poured water over the dying fire to dull the glow, and crouched beside the sleeping marshal, his face pale but alive. Her mind churned. She didn't know this man. She didn't owe him her life or loyalty, but something about the quiet pain in his expression made her pause. He wasn't just running from death, he was running from guilt, from the weight of 100 choices carved into his soul. Outside, the wind died. The stillness before dawn felt heavy, almost sacred. Then she heard it, the distant rhythm of hooves. Slow at first, then multiplying. 4 riders, maybe 5. She peered through a crack in the shutter. Black coats, broad hats, and rifles slung across their backs. The Blackthorn gang. Their leader, a man with a scar down his cheek, dismounted and spat into the dirt. His voice carried like thunder. "We know he came this way," he shouted. "The marshal's bleeding bad. He won't make it far. Search every damn shack, every barn, every soul too stupid to mind their business." The woman gripped her shotgun tighter, her pulse steady despite the fear crawling beneath her skin. Inside, the marshal stirred, opening his eyes just enough to whisper, "You should run. They'll kill you for helping me." She shook her head, eyes locked on the door. "I stopped running a long time ago." The first knock came like a gunshot, hard, demanding. "Open up!" the voice bellowed. She stayed still. Another knock, louder this time. Then the sound of boots crunching toward the window. The marshal tried to rise again, hand searching for his revolver. His breath came fast, his body trembling with weakness. "If they find me, don't let them take me alive," he whispered. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then we fight." The door burst open in a spray of splinters. The first bounty hunter stepped in with his gun raised, and she fired. The blast lit the cabin like lightning, sending him crashing back into the mud. Chaos followed. The Marshal rolled to the floor, dragging his revolver from its holster and firing from where he lay. Bullets shattered glass, tore through wood, and filled the dawn with thunder. Smoke thickened the air, the smell of gunfire choking the small space. When the shooting stopped, the ground outside was littered with silence. The woman stood in the doorway, breath ragged, shotgun still warm. The Blackthorn riders lay sprawled in the mud, their greed ended by the dawn they'd brought with them. The Marshal leaned against the wall, face ghostly, eyes fixed on the light spilling over the horizon. "You didn't have to save me," he murmured. She didn't answer. She only looked at the sunrise, her hands shaking as she lowered the gun. "No," she said finally, "but someone had to." The wind returned, softer now, carrying the smell of rain and blood. The Marshal closed his eyes, the pain easing for the first time in days. He didn't know if he'd live to see another sunrise, but for that brief golden moment he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Dawn bled slowly across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and ash. The wounded Marshal stirred where he lay, his breath shallow but steady. The cabin smelled of gunpowder and smoke, the floor streaked with blood. Outside, the wind whispered through the grass, carrying away the echo of last night's battle. The woman stood by the window, her shotgun still in hand, her eyes scanning the empty plains. She knew this wasn't over. The Blackthorn gang never left their dead unavenged. Where there were 5, more would come. The Marshal pushed himself upright with a groan, clutching his side. "You should have left me," he rasped. "Now they'll come for you, too." She didn't answer. She poured water into a tin cup and handed it to him. "Drink. You'll need your strength." He hesitated, then obeyed, grimacing at the pain lancing through his back. The silence between them felt heavy, two strangers bound by danger, neither trusting the other, yet both too stubborn to walk away. He glanced at her. "Why'd you help me?" She stared at the horizon. "Because once, someone helped me, and I didn't deserve it either." That was all she said, but her tone carried a weight that silenced further questions. A sudden rumble of hooves broke the quiet. The Marshal's eyes snapped to the door. "They're coming." She moved to reload the shotgun. "Then we finish this." The first riders appeared like shadows against the sunrise, 6 this time, led by a man with a crimson scarf and cold eyes. He dismounted, shouting, "We want the Marshal alive. Step aside, lady, and we'll let you keep breathing." Her reply was a single blast of buckshot that sent one rider tumbling. Chaos erupted again. Bullets tore through the cabin walls, splinters flying. The Marshal fired from cover, his aim sure despite his wounds. 2 men fell before they reached the porch. When the smoke cleared, silence reigned once more. The leader of the bounty hunters lay face down, scarf soaked red. The Marshal sagged against the wall, trembling but alive. She turned to him, exhaustion in her eyes. "It's over," she whispered. He shook his head weakly. "Not yet. Crow's still out there." Her gaze hardened. "Then heal fast, Marshal. Because if he comes for you next time," she chambered a fresh shell, her voice low and steady, "he'll have to go through me first." Outside, the wind shifted again, carrying the promise of another fight. Subscribe now, because every dawn begins a new story, and some battles are worth fighting to the end.